Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most successful Wildcat cartridges of all time. Over the last 100 years, there have been countless developments and changes to cases, to bullets, so that we can get different Wildcat cartridges and different variations of really successful cartridges. Today we're going to be talking about the 270 Winchester, that not only was a super successful Wildcat cartridge in its day, but has lasted the test of time and is still relevant today. The 270 Winchester was designed with a 1 10 inch twist barrel, most of them being 24 inches, with a cartridge overall length of 3.34 inches and a max SAMI pressure of 65,000 psi. Now, the 270 Winchester was designed around 130 grain bullet going around 3,060 feet per second. This was much faster than what was considered the standard velocities of the day. Now, what this led to was Western hunters being able to take farther shots on game because of the flatter, faster trajectories that these lighter bullets allowed. However, many hunters, you still use this for elk, deer, moose. Now, it might be a little light for moose and elk, but it still can get the job done. Now, we can't mention the 270 Winchester without mentioning Jack O'Connor. Now, Jack O'Connor was a famous writer for outdoor life. What he did was he promoted the 270 Winchester for the average shooter. He showed that not only through his success, but the successes that he wrote about, that it was a very capable cartridge for really any game within North America. Now, the popularity of the 270 Winchester didn't really fizzle out. As we look today, if we go to really any sporting goods store that sells ammunition, what we'll see is that basically every brand of ammunition will have some form of 270 Winchester on the shelf. Now, on hand, I only have 4, but we have a Nosler Partition, Hornady Superformance, Winchester Super X, and the Federal PowerPoints. Now, 3 of the 4 of these basically have the same velocity, and that's pretty typical for most 270 Winchester ammunition. That velocity ranges between 3,050 feet per second and 3,070 feet per second. The only loading that I've seen that has a significantly different velocity is going to be the Hornady Superformance, which says it will go 3,200 feet per second. So that is significantly faster than your typical 270 Winchester loads. Alright, so with those velocities in mind, that 3,060 feet per second, let's take a look here at the graph. Now, what we see here is that the average hunter, who is typically going to only shoot about 400 yards, maybe 600 yards, will still be able to effectively use the 270 Winchester in taking elk, deer, and those kinds of game. Now, if you want to extend the range beyond that typical max hunting range, you'll have to find a bullet that will expand at those lower velocities. However, for the most part, the average hunter will be fine taking the 270 Winchester out on their next hunting trip. Now, in today's realm of both hunting and target shooting, velocity isn't necessarily the biggest concern. What most people are talking about is how flat their cartridge is, or how much energy it can deliver downrange. Well, if we take a look at the 270 Winchester, within those hunting ranges that we have established, where the extended shots could be between 400 and 600 yards, we see that it only has about 5 to 10 MOA in drop, which might sound like quite a bit. But as we stretch it out to that 1,000-yard mark, what we see is that it has just over 25 MOA in drop. Now, What this means is that it is just as flat as some of the modern cartridges today. Let's take, for example, the 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, it isn't pushing the fastest velocities, but it does take advantage of those high BC bullets. So if we're target shooting at 1,000 yards, that 6.5 Creedmoor, depending on the ammunition you have, is going to be between 24 and 26, maybe 27 minutes of angle, or MOA. So what that means is the 270 Winchester, who is using these bullets that do not have a great BC, it is still going to be as flat as some of the more modern cartridges that take advantage of these high ballistic coefficient rounds. Alrighty, now that we've seen what the 270 Winchester has done historically with factory ammo, this week we are going to be testing some 130 grain Nosler ballistic tips. I prefer this bullet for hunting. It is also a decent bullet for target shooting. It's super consistent more than anything. The BC is only like 0.43 or something along those lines, so it's not the best BC in the world, but the bullets are super consistent, and I've had good success and good accuracy in the past. So stay tuned this next week. We'll try to get out to the range and get some results for you guys.